Hello. Good morning. This video is to cover how to begin with your web development student portfolio root folder and what to do next. Just to recap to make sure that you do have what you were here the first time we went over this. I'm going to go ahead and start from when we downloaded the folder and named it first. So in week 19, and it's not going to always be in week 19, but in this case it is, there is a student portfolio assignment. I'm going to click on it. In here are some items to note, such as how to do some things that we're going to do eventually together, like if you wanted to embed fonts into your website instead of using the default. Together, we will work on resizing gallery items and preparing them in Photoshop when I return. These are notes. Specifically, week 1 covers HTML language and week 2 covers CSS language. But right now, we're just going to focus on the portfolio. I'm going to save this on my desktop. You probably saved it in your project folder on the desktop. All right, so here it is on my desktop. I'm going to extract it. And I will get rid of the zip folder so that I don't accidentally use it later. Now, when I open it, we discovered that upon opening it, there's another student portfolio folder. And this is created by the extraction process. So it's just something that happens. I'm going to open this up. And what I'm going to do is just carefully move all of these items, there's 5, back one folder. And then I'll get rid of that second redundant folder. Now I'm going to go back to the actual folder itself. And instead of student, I'm going to put my last name, and you should do the same. So now I have an official root folder. A root folder is defined as your base folder for your website, in which it contains all of your assets and content that will show on the website. It contains your HTML pages, all right, with the HTML language that provide the structure of the page. Looking at the items that are inside, later when we're ready to embed fonts, I have some fonts here that you can use. So that's what these are for. If you wish to use these fonts, actually use them on your computer, I've provided you with a installable fonts folder. So all of these fonts can actually be installed on your computer by right-clicking and using install. Do not use install for users. Notice that these fonts have a strange extension on them. And so these are not fonts that you can install. These are fonts that are specifically used for online. You also have some placeholder images until we get your gallery set up and your profile set up. You'll be able to use these images as a placeholder until you figure out what you want for your profile pic or what items you want in your gallery. The last two items that are in here are your index HTML and main style CSS. These are the two languages that we are going to be discussing. One language provides the structure of the website. So when people say they're literally building a website, they are. They're using the HTML language to build the page. Now, logically, you would think, well, how do I tell the browser what things are? The two things you need to understand about the HTML language are that it uses tags and attributes, and that's the language. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. We're going to skip the resizing of your gallery items, and this would be the next thing that we would do. So let's go ahead and open up index.html for the first time. And we're going to use the program that was introduced a couple days ago, which was Notepad++. There's a couple ways that you can actually access Notepad++. You can right-click on any HTML or CSS file, and you can then choose Edit with Notepad++. Now, another thing before we open up this file is you may want to remember that we had turned on extensions. So if you are watching this video and you're like, how is he seeing the extensions on the files? Well, what we had done is when you're developing, you need to be able to see the full name of your files. So if you go to View in your Windows Explorer or File Explorer, you'll have this option here under View to show file name extension. So I just checked this box. And as you can see, when I turn it off, the extensions disappear. When I turn it on, the extensions reappear. This is so that when you're coding, you know the full name of your file because the file names can change. Instead of JPG, it could be JPEG. And there is a big difference when you're trying to communicate to a browser. With that said, let's go ahead and use the easy method of getting Notepad++. I can right click, and I'll right click on the word. That's usually when I get the option. Edit with Notepad++. Now, if you have trouble or don't see that option or shortcut, know that you can just go to Notepad++ in your start menu and open it up here first. Notepad++ is a free editor. Web design is free. You can do all of this stuff, unlike the Adobe apps that we're using. It's free. You can code for free, create things for free. Notepad++ is a nice entry-level editor. Most people, when they do get into web development, they start migrating towards another app called Atom, ATOM. But I've been using Notepad++ for my entire career. Now, looking at all this stuff in here, there's a lot to see, okay? For the most part, the notes that are in here are going to help you understand what it is that you're looking at. And that's what they are. Anything that you see in green is called a comment. Now, what you're going to need to learn about, probably the hardest thing about learning a coding language is the different characters and the combination of characters. For instance, in order to even make a comment, you got to have an angle bracket, exclamation, and you have to have 2 dashes to start. If I take one of these away, it becomes regular text. So know that. And when you go online, you'll probably see people exaggerate their comments by adding more dashes. That's because comments are very useful and are used throughout the entire code to help people remember. Comments are not read by the browser. They are simply notes for the developer and any other developer that's working on the code. Now, this first line is the first line you always want to start with because what it does is it tells the browser exactly which language, because there's so many versions of HTML, 5 of them, but that's a lot. And so we have to make sure the browser knows exactly which one is being used. This particular declaration, that's what it is probably the shortest declaration ever, okay? And it is this exact sequence of characters that makes it so. Anything else is incorrect, okay? I've added a note that this is graphic design 1, and I've added notes throughout the rest of this as well. In this case here, as you can see, it's setting the language of the page. where the code starts here and ends way down here. Tells the browser we're starting the code and we're ending it down there. But like I said, the two things that are used in the HTML language are the tag, which is this. Anything with brackets around it is a tag. But then with color coding, you see the tags are blue. You're going to see this red text. And that's what I like about Notepad++ is that, it's color coded, so it's easy for beginners to learn. This indicates an attribute. And what an attribute does is it can modify or change a tag. So this is a really good one to start with because this tells the browser, hey, the code is starting right now, but I want you to also make sure that everything that's in the code is in English. So that way, whenever you go, when people see it in other countries where their browser might translate it, no matter what, the page will be seen in English. The next thing you want to consider is anything that controls the page and tells the page what to do. It's just like our brains. So we call this section the head tag. Notice it starts here and ends here. Everything in the head tag controls how the page will work and what resources it will use. For instance, we're going to put this in, and we learned the other day that this is going to be seen in the tab of your browser. So let's go ahead and start with this while we're at it. For the title tag, let's put the name of our website. All right. I'll do something simple like Newman Portfolio. You might come up with something like, someone's place or my work or here's a look at my work or whatever you want to call your portfolio. Just make sure that people know what it is. Maybe some reference to it being your work or showcase of work. I'm just going to go with Newman Portfolio. This next one, like it says, teaches the browser how to read. Literally, UTF-8 is the latest library of characters. And so if you don't have this in your code, then your browser will show what's called wingdings. Bet you didn't know where wingdings came from. They are funny little characters that are in place of characters that the browser can't read. So to prevent that from happening, you add this library. What this is doing, though, is using a meta tag. Meta tag means, to think in this case. And what we're doing is we're teaching the browser, how to present our page. So when we use meta tags, that's what we intend to do. Teach the browser how to view the page. This attribute in red, you probably figured it out, is character set, which makes sense because this is a library of characters. You then have this meta tag, which is important because it controls how the page will resize and scale your content. These days, you're not just looking at a website on a desktop computer, you're looking at it on a tablet and phone. All right. So you need to make sure that everything resizes and scales appropriately. Otherwise, it won't look right. So this is a formula that does that using the name attribute to access viewport and the content attribute to provide the formula. The rest of these, I don't want to go through everything because you can just read it, is are links. So mostly you're going to see meta tags and links in the head tag. Links are links to external documents, things that will help with the page. For instance, right here, this is actually an address for Bootstrap. You'll learn more about this in level 2. Bootstrap is a framework, and we're using all of its information to create the look of our page. This was provided free by MIT students online a long time ago, and Bootstrap is actually based off of Twitter. Okay. Link, these last two links are to those other files that you saw in the folder. Remember mainstyle.css? Well, this is connected to it, and so anything we do in main style CSS will show on this page. And last but not least, this style sheet for student fonts. We'll get to this when we start working with fonts. For right now, we're done with the head tag and we can move to the body. Well, the head tag is all invisible with the exception of the title. Anything in the head tag you can't see. It's just background content. But anything in the body tag, and let's see where it starts and it ends, you'll appreciate that in Notepad++, you'll always know that your tags are closed because the first and the second will highlight, just like you're seeing here. And that's a good thing. So starting back up here, the next thing you're going to see in the body is a container fluid. Now this container fluid, I didn't put a note on it, but what it does is it allows the page to conform to whatever device. If there's a formula for how things will scale, container fluid ensures that everything scales properly as well. Notice that it's wrapped, and that's the term we'll use, around everything, just like the body tag. I even got a little note that says do not remove. Now we start to use semantic tags which describe the parts of the page. Again, you'll find a lot of logic in HTML language. Things will make sense. In this case, we want to provide a section called header. Now we all know a header is at the top of a page. In this header, we have created a row. You have to understand that pages, no matter what they look like, are all based off tables. So there's rows and columns. Div means container, and it creates a space for you to add your content. So if you build a page in the body, you'll provide a main container for all of your content. You'll then start to use rows and columns to define your content spaces. In this case, this one is designated for the logo. Here's your first image tag. This is so that you can see your logo that you created. Now, as of right now, if you want to test it out, you can, but I'm pretty sure your logo might not be ready yet. It might have some, some white space, extra white space on there, and we need to probably deal with that before we add this in. So as much as you want to add your logo in right now, let's hold off on that. As far as the rest of it, when we do add your logo, know that the image tag requires attributes. Because if it's just the image tag by itself, it's not defined. So in the image tag, you can actually use SRC or source, and you can tell it where to find the logo. So for instance, in my root folder, in relation to the index, I can put my logo right here. And once I put my logo there, I can go back into the code and I could say, okay, it's there now. And I'll call it logo Newman dot, and it was probably a PNG, dot PNG. Now, because it's right next to the index, it doesn't need a path, meaning it doesn't need me to say it's inside this folder, it's in that location, it's there. It has to be in the same folder next to it. As long as that's the case, then the name that I put here will point to that file, and that file will show with the following information. Title is an attribute, but different from this. Title, in this case, creates what's called a tooltip. Oh man, you thought that, Facebook was the first ones to do that, or any other social media site. But no, tagging has been around for a long time, and it was because of this attribute. Title allows you to hover over any image and provide a message. So when you hover over your logo, this little message will appear. This is my logo design. In fact, anything that you type here will appear when you hover. The alt tag attribute is for, accessibility, meaning anybody that is handicapped viewing the site. If, for instance, they can't see the logo or need some special, I guess, app to help them, then the alt attribute will, if they request a reading, it will read the name, all right, or the alt will appear in place of the logo. So it's always good to have this. In fact, these days you have to have this for the handicap and accessibility. Finally, we get to an attribute that controls size. Now, the reason I've only chosen height is because you should never use both dimensions because you don't know the proper proportions. So what you should do is only choose one dimension, then put a number in and let the browser scale it proportionally. So at 140 pixels in height, which is what I recommend for your logo, the browser will automatically adjust the width so that your logo isn't distorted. All right, enough about that. We'll come back to that later, and I'm going to go ahead and take this out. All right, we're almost where we need to be. In the second column of the, or second row of the header, which is the other column, right next to logo, is going to be your name and possibly some subtitle. So let's put that in, okay? So I'm going to say, I could say Newman Web Portfolio. Mm, or I could put something a little bit more creative in there. Let's see, design. This is what I've been using the last couple of years. According to Newman. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to act like it's like some kind of series. So I'm going to say chapter 2023. All right. Now, there's a couple tags that are around this. So while you're thinking of this, I'll explain. The H1 tag is for titles or headers, okay? And there are 6 different sizes. The lowest number, H1, is the largest. If I were to put a 6 on these, this would be the smallest. So you're probably wondering, why would you want a small title? Well, think about it. What devices exist? Phones, watches, things like that. So even though it's small, it's still a heading, and it would be an appropriate heading for a small device like that. We'll use the largest one, and then we'll use the second largest one for the subtitle. Also notice that it has these P tags around it. You probably guess what those are, but if not, they're paragraph tags. You would use paragraph tags to, of course, say when something's a paragraph, or if you want it to simply be on the next line. So I put paragraph tags on either side of the subtitle so that it doesn't appear next to this, it appears below it. Let's get down to navigation. You must have these two, okay? But the middle one is up to you. I need your site to go back to FHS Portfolio, so this is a required link. And down here, we need your navigation to go to your own elements of design. Now, because we don't have to resize the elements of design, you can go ahead and put your elements of design in your root folder. Let's see. I don't think I have one to use. But if I did, I would copy it and I would paste it into this root folder. Okay. Now, hopefully your elements of design file is the correct name. Okay. I believe we called it EOD underscore. Remember, those are useful now. Newman, I would say, because it's my file. And it is without a doubt going to be a PDF. Okay. So now, because I've put this in, and this is a hyperlink, so Don't ask me why they use the letter A for hyperlink. But this notes a hyperlink, all right? A link to go to a certain place, a website or an item. Href means hyperlink reference. So the attribute tells us where to find the file. Because it's in the folder next to the HTML, we could just use the exact name. You remember what title is from above, but then there's a new one, target. Target is useful because it can specify where you want the page to open. In this case, underscore self means that the link will open in the same window, okay? Now, if you change that, then it will open in a new one. And I believe that is blank. So if you say underscore blank, then it will open in a new window. And a lot of students said they prefer that. They like it when things open in a new window versus the one they're in. So you can choose either one, but I'm going to stick with self. So that means when somebody clicks on Elements of Design in my navigation menu, it will open up the PDF that I created. And this one here in the middle. This is up to you. Now, I would really like you to use a website that is, appropriate, of course. Maybe it's a site you like to look at when you're just kind of kill time, but it must be school appropriate. I like this site. And you would think, oh, I can just say www.goat.com, but that's not the case. All right. When you select the address, there's a whole lot more than just this. So when I copy it and I go here back to my code, remember href is how you point to things. I'm going to paste the address right between these quotation marks. And look at that. Where did that come from? HTTPS. That's a full address. Okay. This is a link to, and then you want to put the name. Decide how you want it to open, and then put the name that you want people to see in the navigation. All right, next one. And this is where we're going to actually stop until I get back, because this is now your profile section. Okay. In your profile section, we're going to have two things, your paragraph and your profile picture. We'll deal with the profile picture later. Right now, let's focus on the paragraph. First of all, it's already set up for you. We're using a level 3 header, okay, for About Me. If you want to make it larger, you can by making it a 1 or 2. Notice it has paragraph tags at the beginning and end, and you must keep these intact. Now I'm going to go ahead and find my paragraph that I typed. Remember we were setting that up? Let's see. See if I can find somebody's About Me. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I got to check this out. All right. So we got a couple of them turned in. I will go with, actually, these are all drafts. So I'm going to go with this student who emailed me theirs. Let's see, where are we at here? Because theirs was actually written up, and that's useful. There we go. All right, whoa, that's a lot. Okay, so I'm going to actually just take part of this. And so I'll highlight all of this, maybe down to right about, I'll go right about there. All right, but that's pretty long. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that portion of it. And I'm simply just gonna go back to my code and I'm gonna replace the lorem ipsum that's in here. Lorem ipsum is useful as a designer. You know, you got to show clients your work. They got to see what you're capable of. You're not always going to have text, you know, that you make up. So lorem ipsum is useful to show the client what text will look like in a space. All right, very useful, and that's why you see it all the time. So I'm just going to highlight all this and paste. There it is. Just that simple. Make sure that the paragraph tags are intact though. Okay. Like I said, we're going to stop right there. Let's see what we've done so far. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Ooh, water. Hold on. And I'm going to go ahead and preview it. So I'm going to go to View, View Current File In, and let's just use Chrome. All right, so the paragraph is there, but it's in white. So the text is in white. Oh man, what are we going to do about that? Well, we'll just have to wait till the next video. All right. You also have your links here, but they're also in white. Man, I wish I could see those. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'll let you see how, I'll let you see. We'll do a little something here. A little something just to show you what we can do here. All right. So I'm going to go in here. Let's do a little trickery here. I'm going to say, all right, feel free to try this as well. All right, I'm going to say background color colon there. We're now actually writing a whole nother language. Okay, this is CSS. All right, I'll talk more about this, of course. Background color, let's make it purple. Okay, and add that semicolon at the end, an ending quotation mark. So what this is called is an inline style. All right, an inline style, because CSS is how your page looks, while HTML is how your page is structured. CSS language allows you to add color and appearance. So what I did is I added an inline style to my row. Let's see what it does. Save. And you don't have to go back to view. If your page is already open, you just refresh. Hey, look at that. Now I can see my navigation. All right. Now we won't be using inline style. I have a better way of doing that using the main style CSS. But for right now, just so you can see what you're doing, we'll add this in. Let's go ahead and add another one so we can see our paragraph. All right, so style. Style is an attribute that starts the CSS language. And now that we're in that mode, everything has to be in that language. So I'm going to be background, color, complementary to, I don't want to do yellow. I'll do orange, even though I know it's not going to look that great, but I don't want to do yellow because yellow and white, okay. Add that ending quotation there. Give it another look. Style equals quotation mark, the property that you want to change, which is the background color, and the value. In this case, we could just type the name orange. This semicolon ends the statement, and this quotation ensures that the value is closed. Let's take a look and refresh. Hey, there we go. So now we can see. All right, folks. Next time we'll get into some other things such as adding gallery items and logos and profile pics. But for right now, you should have a full navigation, a title for your page. All right. Probably a title for your page here. If you want to add a background color, you can see that too. Okay. Maybe you can do that on your own and see how it works. But we also have your text in here. Okay. So this gives you an idea of how to add content to your page. All right, like I said, till next time, hope this helps.